The Philippines today is amongst the fastest growing economies, equipped with more than 100 million people, and is regarded as a strong exporter of both products and services around the world. It is even in fact that in 2021 stood with a gross domestic product by purchase power parity of more than 1.4 trillion US dollars, one of the largest globally. Previously, however, the economy of this archipelago nation was incomparable to today's terms. But it does present itself as a key knowledge as to how the nation of the Philippines is today, and may as well be a fundamental lesson to the coming future. The foremost significant timeline in the Philippines' history that is impacting this entirety of the nation dates way back to the beginning of the 16th century, in the year 1565, also known as the start of the Spanish colonial period, a time when the Spanish Empire was a global superpower and the Philippines was ruled over by the Europeans. Throughout this settlement, the Philippines and its cities would in fact emerge to become a crucial part of Asia. Starting in the year it was occupied, it immediately opened the so-called galleon trade, which was an initiative to help the city of Manila connect with the city of Acapulco from the Central American nation Mexico. This trade pact would enable the Philippines to thrive, as it helped connect the Philippines and Southeast Asia to other nations globally. Importing and exporting a mix of goods, from silk to porcelain to crafted materials and raw materials. This had also enabled them to connect with Spain by first going through Acapulco through Pacific Ocean and then across the Caribbean Sea and the Atlantic Ocean. With such connections outside of Asia, it is said that in the coming centuries from the 17th to the 18th, Manila would become the most important center of trade across the entire Asian continent. This had occurred because other Asian nations were keen on trading with these European nations, specifically with the Spanish Empire, and had only been able to do so through Manila. From there, they would use the galleon trade. What stood out for the nation of the Philippines to have a stronger economy is when they were introduced to tobacco, a major economic boost to the colonized nation. It allowed them to sell and export these products, along with newfound and stronger agriculture-based products, which flourished the entire economy. The Philippines at that time was booming. It also became the distribution center of silver mined in the Americas. Although there is no measure of how big its gross domestic product at that time was, it more than likely had a strong economy, presumably growing each and every year, considering the strength of its geographic position and its role in the entire Spanish Empire. Fast forward to the year 1785, then King Charles III of Spain established the Royal Philippine Company, a chartered monopoly that would govern the Spanish Philippines and all surrounding trade. It was at that time established with an initial capital of 3,000 shares, with each share priced at 250 pesos. With strong governance and capital-rich company, and its immediate rise as a monopolistic firm, it had gone on to become the leading export-oriented company in the Philippines. It modernized several ports and facilities, and took control of the business after business. Its lifeline, however, would slowly fade away in the coming decades, and be declared extinct exactly in 1834. This was due to numerous internal problems between the company and the Spanish Empire, along with the struggle of being a monopolistic company that had angered merchants and companies alike. With the end of such a prominent firm, it would come to the minds of many that this would entail the rise of the failure of such a large conglomerate of the Philippines, and its economy to experience a crippling effect. That, however, did not happen. In many ways, it cost jobs and opportunity costs for this company, but at that time, Europe was rather shining with its transformation. Known as the Industrial Revolution, which first emerged in the United Kingdom and then in Spain, and was such raw material intensive, it helped the Philippines and other Spanish colonial countries to export their raw materials to create and form this first industrial revolution. If you are not aware of such, the first IR, as some call it, was the establishment of manufacturing, specifically with the use of machine tools, steam power, and water power, which enabled the manufacturing of many kinds. Moving on, the Philippines would also at the time in 1834 have its port open to world trade. As Manila and the other ports were renowned for their use and plausible agriculture-based economy, it flourished with exports. Nations among nations were keen on buying Filipino goods. This phase of its history may have probably helped shape the entire Philippines' agriculture economy. After all, it was a nation with thousands of islands, but the capabilities and intensiveness of its population helped it become a key agriculture exporter. But the economy of the Philippines flourished further, directly when the Suez Canal finally opened. The initiative has cut the travel time from Europe to the Philippines by half of the time needed previously, which meant that more potential opportunities emerged. The former economic driver, galleon trade, was also on the decline. This was also led by the rise of the domestic-based economy of the Philippines. It was concerning the agriculture demand of the world, as the land was much more needed to be used for crops and the like. The ports of the Philippines then became regarded as amongst Asia's most successful hubs. This entailed a huge surplus of immigrants, both from Europe and especially the immigration of Chinese. Unique and myriad cultures were brought into the Philippines, making its economy a profound nation. For a quick perspective, in 1877, the entire population of the Philippines was approximately around 5.5 million people, and the entire world was around 1.2 billion. The years from 1851 and before the 20th century would, on the other hand, help shape what we see today in the very lands of the Philippines. Sure, it was more than a century ago. Tons of economic activities, business collaborations, and the emergence of more people and trade would come to be. But there would be businesses and families with strong ties to Spain to occupy most of this. In 1851, the El Banco Español Filipino de Isabel II would be established, and it would become the nation's first ever bank. What was so amazing about this? It's the fact that today, it is still standing. Famously known as the Bank of the Philippine Islands, or BPI for short. More than likely, BPI helped shape the entire financial system of the Philippines over the past century. It was also not the only conglomerate with strong ties until today. Companies such as Yunchasti y Campania, the famous conglomerate from 1816 to 1936, are notable for being multinational companies with offices around Tokyo, New York, Shanghai, Hong Kong, and Manila, and its role as an agriculture exporter and producer that earmarked the Philippines as one of the world's largest. Their presence, although far defunct, is still seen today. Another company that dates its way back is the Ayala y Campania, which started in 1876, along with La Fábrica de Cerveza San Miguel in 1889. Two, as you already know from the name, still stand today, as amongst the nation's largest conglomerates. Although the conversation on the Philippines economy did in many ways benefit from the occupation of the Spanish Empire, it unfortunately does not mean that everything was blazing with money. The occupation of the Philippines also meant that the archipelago nation would be under the rule of another nation. With the Philippines having amassed numerous benefits, it was still paying taxes to an outside entity, and thousands if not more were ultimately killed during the occupation, or numerous wars that have emerged over the 3 centuries they ruled. Further, their presence has greatly shifted the entire demographic of the Philippines. The nation's largest conglomerates, languages, currencies, and frankly a huge portion of the country's culture has emerged to share it with Spanish ties, leaving the Philippines and its very own culture before this occupation to have little say in modern society. All of the Spanish occupations, on the other hand, would cease to come into existence, earmarking its 300 years and more of existence within the very lives of Filipinos. It would cease to exist in exactly the year 1898, when on June 12th, the famous leader by the name Emilio Aguinaldo would issue the Philippines Declaration of Independence, meaning it is now free from the hands of Spain. This came to be after numerous wars and conflicts, but at the end of it had then embarked on a new journey for the archipelago nation, one that would very much have more effect on its economy in the coming future. That, however, will be shown on the next part of this 3-part video, which, depending on when you see this video, will be either out already or is still in production. Anyway, what do you think of the historical economic growth of the Philippines under the Spanish occupation? Let us know down below.